Our top focus on WION right now. Thousands of Ukrainians took to the streets of Kyiv and cities across the country, calling on President Zelensky to veto a controversial new law. They say it threatens the nation's anti-corruption infrastructure. With signs reading, "Veto the law and protect Ukraine's future," demonstrators voiced their anger over a new law, with critics saying that it threatens to dismantle the country's anti-corruption system.
It is important to fight corruption so that more money goes to the armed forces of Ukraine. The more effectively the government uses our resources and there is less corruption, the more we will be able to direct resources to our defense, to our fight.
We still have big problems with top corruption, especially the one that eats up a huge amount of our Ukrainian GDP in a warring country. Instead, we see how the president of Ukraine, instead of being an example, being the locomotive of this history of struggle and demonstrating zero tolerance for corruption, is now using his own resources to take control of the criminal proceedings of his entourage.
Legislation passed by Ukraine's parliament and signed into law by Zelensky reduces powers and autonomy of two key anti-corruption bodies in Ukraine, which is the National Anti-Corruption Bureau, known as NABU, and the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, or SAPO. They now come under the Prosecutor General. The law gives the Prosecutor General sweeping new powers over anti-corruption investigations. Civil society groups have raised anger and alarm. NABU and SAPO issued a joint statement warning that the law would strip them of their independence and reduce them to tools of political influence. Transparency International Ukraine has now condemned the move, calling it a step backwards in one of the country's most important reforms since the 2014 Revolution of Dignity. Amid the uproar in Ukraine, Zelensky says that the country's anti-corruption infrastructure will work regardless of recent changes. He also added that it needed to be cleared of Russian influences.
Everything needs to be cleared of this, and there must be more justice. Of course, the NABU and the SAPO will work, and it is important that the Prosecutor General is determined to ensure that in Ukraine, the inevitability of punishment for those who go against the law is actually ensured. This is what is really needed for Ukraine.
It was the largest public demonstration since Russia's full-scale invasion began. As Ukraine continues its fight on the battlefield, the battle for accountability and transparency has started back at home as well. And well, for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Lada El Rosski. She's an international security and defense expert. And Dr. Rosski is joining us live from Kyiv. Welcome to WION, Dr. Rosski. First up, you're joining us live from Ukraine. Talk to us about the current situation in your country and your assessment of this decision made by Zelensky.
Well, as Russia continues its war of aggression in Ukraine, we also see hybrid attacks on the socio and political fabric of Ukraine. The situation is very tense. The mood is horrific. People have been under bombing for over 4 years. So it is tense, and it is just a direct result of this ongoing Russian aggression, which wants to see the complete elimination of the Ukrainian nation.
Dr. Rosski, I was talking about Zelensky's decision on eliminating the anti-corruption bodies there. What kind of implications will that have, not just in Kyiv, but also Ukraine's position on the global stage?
We already see some very concerning messages coming from the OECD, for instance, which has stated that this will have a direct impact on the manner in which Ukraine receives defense support and aid. We see already the European Union and the Commission coming out with also their statements with deep concern at this attack on the anti-corruption infrastructure. That having been said, it is important to consider that today the Ukrainians are going to be meeting and having some sort of peace talks in Istanbul with the Russian Federation. So this may very well be a signal that Zelensky and co are willing to negotiate upon something, but this is a very, very deep, direct blow to Ukraine's democratic reform. And it's very concerning that this vertical that we see in the Russian Federation is being formed in Ukraine.
My last question to you, why was this decision taken by Zelensky at this juncture when Ukraine is already reeling from relentless attacks by Russia and the fact that Ukrainians were in unity, but now what we're also witnessing is the largest protests by the Ukrainians against the Ukrainian government and Zelensky since Russia's full-scale invasion?
Again, this could be a demand for peace talks. We don't know what the United States and the Russian Federation have been speaking about. So it's a very tender place. It could trigger a civil uprising, which is the last thing that Ukraine needs. It's pivotal that this law be vetoed and also be considered under the framework that recently a man who is behind the court structures of Ukraine had been assassinated in Spain. Portnov was his name. So this may be related to that assassination of the very powerful pro-Russian figure from Ukraine.
All right, Dr. Rosleski, thank you so much for joining us here on WION with your insights.
You're very welcome.